Good morrow to you all. You have fallen on barred times.
Brought to you by RHUL Shakespeare Society.
You've joined me, Cassie Dixon.
And me, Jack Hardman, as we bear some bardy truths.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Barred Times. I'm not Jack Hardman and surprisingly I'm not Cassie Dixon either. This week I'm Subhan Haye and I'm here with Azan Ahmed, who's an alumni of Royal Holloway. Let me give a quick introduction. Azan is an actor and a poet who graduated from Royal Holloway in 2018 after studying English and drama. His poetry explores navigating cultural identity. As a poet, he is currently part of the writing room with Apples and Snakes. He's worked with Good Chance Theatre, the BBC's Words First scheme, and was a finalist in the 2020 Roundhouse Poetry Slam. As an actor, he has performed at the Almeida Theatre, New Diorama Theatre, and is due to appear in Jack Absolute Flies again at the National Theatre. That's quite the CV, Azan. How are you doing?
Nah, cheers, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just going to say personally, it meant a lot when I discovered that you went to Royal Holloway. Someone of the similar background to me, similar interests, similar aspirations and all that sort of thing. So I instantly wanted to do a podcast with you. So thanks for being here, man.
Of course, we're happy to be here, man. Had to connect with you, man. Come on, there's unfortunately not a lot of people that look like us doing what we do, especially at Royal Holloway.
So hopefully that will change. But before we get on to like uni life and all that sort of thing, I want to ask you what your experience was in GCSE and A-level. So what was it like for you studying Shakespeare in GCSE, or if you studied it in A-level as well?
Yeah. Well, you asked me to go back now. This is about 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
Which obviously isn't that long ago, but I think first off, the first thing that I think I need to recognise is that my educational experience was maybe a bit different. So I grew up in London, in northwest London, in like comprehensive schools, the normal, until year 9, and then my family and I moved to Qatar, to Doha when I was 14. So I did GCSEs and A-levels over there in a British international school. So it's like same but different, but there's more money in the schools over there, so I gotta just acknowledge that sort of that privilege that came with that. And I think for me that just made it so, like, I don't know, we had more books, I guess, available to us, or we didn't have to rent it out from the library, like they gave us the books kind of thing. Do you know what, from when I was thinking about it, I just remember all the films that we watched. We just watched bare, like I'm talking like old school, like 1970s Macbeth. I think the BBC did a production or a film of it. David Tennant's Hamlet, Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, that long 3-hour, 4-hour one, and that helped. So yeah, I always liked English. I always gravitated towards that. I've always looked at Shakespeare with the duality of written text as well as performance. I think watching those films helped because I'm a visual learner and I got to see both those things at play. We got to understand and analyse the text, and then I got to see the films and see how different man interpreted it.
Okay, I mean that's quite interesting because that from hearing what that was like in Qatar, because while we were in Britain here, we were encouraged to watch the adaptations. It wasn't a requirement, but rather we were more encouraged to just read it. I remember when I was studying Macbeth, which was my first experience with Shakespeare with an exam, because we studied it in year 7 as well. We were told in the summer break between year 10 and year 11, we were told just read Macbeth before you get into year 11. It was implied, of course, to watch it, but we were never told. So it's quite interesting that you were explicitly made to watch films in your time in Qatar. But here's the interesting thing that I talked about in my academic discussion, that all these adaptations that were shown, Kenneth Branagh, David Tennant, all of them, as good as they are, they only represent one demographic, whereas there's many different adaptations, like in Indian cinema, as Haye, Maqbool and all that. So I personally feel that if people from our background were told that these films exist as well, there'd be more of us in this industry, and there'd be more of us who are interested in Shakespeare. As things are going for the black community with Papa Sidhu's adaptation of Hamlet, for example.
For sure, man. I mean, yeah, I only knew what a header was because in my A-level English lit class, this Pakistani girl in the class she talked about it.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And that's what put me on. I would have never known it existed, and yeah, I love it. I think maybe my teachers were just trying to make their lessons easy by making us watch 3-hour films over 3 lessons. You know what I mean? I did school in Qatar, but it was a British school. I did GCSEs, I did A-levels, the same you guys would do them here. I just did it in 50-degree heat, basically.
Okay. Yeah. What would you change about the education system? Because now you're saying that it was British, so it's pretty much what we did.
Yeah, it was the same, you know, same exam criteria, same like EdXL, AQA, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I just triggered saying those words again. What would I change? You know what, with Shakespeare specifically, I would make it seem like less of a mountain, and it sounded like even more of a mountain for you guys, because if I was 15, 16, someone told me to read this book over the summer, I'd tell them to go do one, man. But what I would change, make it seem less of a mountain, because you get this book, right, and the footnotes and annotations are bloody longer than the verse itself on this page, and it's just like, how do I tackle this? And I think maybe it's because I'm a performer as well, but all of Shakespeare's stuff, the plays, are meant to be performed. So more of that, even in the English class setting, you know. I think the main thing is we've got to make it make sense for you. That's totally it, you know. And we can look at, I think it's a 2-part thing. We can look at this text analytically and try and understand, but then when you embody that text, you know, when you submit to the feelings and the imagery and that's there and let that transform you, that's when you find out what Shakespeare can mean to you. Any teacher now, GCSE or A-level, who's not talking about like performance histories of Shakespeare is missing a trick. Like Papa Seydu's Hamlet, massive things, you know what I mean? Like any teacher who's not talking about that, because that's what it can make it make sense for people. Or something like David Tennant's Hamlet contemporizes everything. Like at school, I didn't know the Globe or the RSC were still doing shows. I thought they were just things that happened, and they were just museums now, you know. And maybe that's because I was 4,000 miles away, but like just the way that they were talked about was just these things that happened. But in actual fact, you've got Papa Seydu as Hamlet, you've got Ballygill as Romeo, British Indian South Asian man from Coventry, played Romeo and Juliet. You know, like if we learn about that, it just makes it feel more accessible.
Yeah, exactly. And I get your point about making it a mountain, because like personally, not even Shakespeare, like anything I'm reading right now, like say I'm reading like Aristotle or Plato or a Socratic dialogue, I want to get into it and I want to get straight into the dialogue and read the script kind of thing. But I'm always like, the introductions of the books, it feels like a punch to the face where you have to go through this introduction and all these things. I think children should be introduced to the thing itself first and then look at the analytic thing. I think that's what you were trying to say.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you just said it in way less words, which I'm glad about. One other thing, I think, as well, like I was listening to a podcast recently. This actor Michael Balogun, I think he's got an amazing story, man. One that I can't do justice by speaking up on. He was recently on a show at the National, a one-man show, Death of England Part 2. But he did this podcast episode way before that, and he was talking about his auditions. And he went to RADA, and he was working with this director, and he was working on this Henry V speech, and he just couldn't get into it, right? And then his director was like, he just broke it down for him, and then Michael, the actor, went, oh, he's just trying to rally up the mandem. That's how it made sense to him. And he approached it with that stroke, and then everything changed. And it's the same thing, like, I'm trying to learn a self-tape right now for an audition, yeah? It's like this soldier, and it's a lot of technical language about, like, a submarine, and he's all, like, ending every line with sir, the same way Shakespeare, you'd end lines with sirrah or something like that. And I was like, this is a bit... this different formulation of language is not what I'm used to. But then I thought, okay, really these two people are just trying to suss each other out. So how would that happen if it was on ends? And that's it. Like trying to once I'd started doing that and saying it like I would say it just down the road, the lines started making more sense.
That makes sense. Though it's important to do that first and then go back to what it actually is in the text and then perform it. Yeah, I think that's a good idea for how they should teach. I know a few teachers who have done that, not personally, but like there are. I forgot what it's called, but there's a YouTube channel, some Ghetto Shakespeare or something like that, he does a similar thing to what you were saying. So I assume you were part of the Shakespeare Society at Royal Holloway in some way.
Yeah, I was. It took me a while to finally buy my membership. But yeah, I was in second year. So in my second year, that's 2017, I was lucky enough to be in Richard III. We did a production of that, directed by Dan Jones. He's a sick guy.
He was in our alumni events. Yes.
Was he? Oh man.
Yeah.
He's great, man. He's great. And yeah, I was really lucky. I played Buckingham. So he's like Richard's right hand man. And yeah, it was a fun time, man. I wish I did more Shakespeare Sock, but at the time, I just still didn't really feel like Shakespeare was for me.
I mean, it is quite hard for obviously for people like us to get into it because of all these challenges we've just mentioned and these solutions that we've proposed. So hopefully, if people listen to us, it will be easier for people in the future. But I think you do you agree with me when I say that it is something that people should make an effort to get people into?
Yeah, I mean, societies point blank should just be really welcoming and inclusive.
Exactly.
And I think the Rojo Performing Arts Societies, the ones I encountered, really were. I think it always just depends on the people, the team that's leading that show and who welcomes you. I just remember when I got accepted into Rojo, like a couple months before then, I just started seeing on the Facebook pages all this stuff about the drama productions, and instantly that creates a welcoming tone. I think for me it was, when I was at Royal Holloway, it was less of people being the barriers and just like I was the only brown person in my year in drama, and then on top of that, I didn't go to theatre school after school. I only did drama at school, whereas a lot of these people around me were in theatre school from the womb and were just doing extracurricular stuff from day one. So all of that stuff I just felt way behind. Stuff like Shakespeare Sock, stuff like people taking a chance on you because of your raw instinct. We need more of that.
No, honestly, bro, I feel everything you're saying right now. The stuff about how welcoming people are, but there's still that feeling of, I'm the only one who's doing this right now. So I feel all that. So I wanted to ask you, now that you've graduated, there's any way that Shakespeare Society has helped you later on in life?
It gave me a housemate.
Okay, that's cool.
We did Richard III in the second year, and then I met Barney Nunn, who is also in the show.
Okay.
And then the next year we ended up living together for third year, and he's amazing. He's sick. I think because that Richard III was the first time I ever did a Shakespeare play. Like ever. I did like a monologue here and there way back when, but it was the first time I did that, and I was exposed to the different ways you could interpret stuff, and watching actors do the work was great. And I always felt from that show there was something about doing Shakespeare that maybe I felt I needed to come back to at some point. And that's actually happening now. It's weird we're doing this podcast right now. Call it fate, call it whatever. Like I literally just bought the Shakespeare's Complete Works because I wanted to read it. I was really lucky this time last year in lockdown, talking about the impact of Shakespeare. I spent a lot of Zoom time with a friend of mine, Bally Gill, who I mentioned before, who played Romeo in the RSC. you know, he was in Romeo, he was in Macbeth, he's had different roles, all Shakespeare. And he was saying how, like, Shakespeare has written every character type there is. So when you understand them, it unlocks certain stuff for you as an actor. And I was like, okay, I need to do that. So, and that wouldn't have happened without this sort of first spark of Shakespeare sock. And now, like, I'm reading Romeo and Juliet, and I think what Shakespeare's helping me to do now as an actor is understanding the power of subtext. Because, like we were saying before, right, you've got this mountain of unusual language in the text. You're not used to speaking like that.
Yeah.
So then it forces you to engage with the unseen. What do they actually mean? This is just nerdy actor talk now, but like as an actor, you need that, you know, because then that just strengthens and deepens what you're offering. It's not surface level anymore because you have to go deep. And then as a writer, I mean, I wasn't doing any sort of poetry when I was in Shakespeare sock, and now reading Shakespeare now, it's like his wordplay is insane, bro.
I know, yeah, it's good. You learn more and more you read it.
My man could have won a Lord of the Mics clash, like, for real. It's just the way, the repetition, all that sort of stuff. So all of this stuff that I'm talking about now started off with Shakespeare sock, you know, a combination of Shakespeare sock and doing Shakespeare at uni. Like, I did specific courses on it, helped plant that seed that I wasn't bothered to tackle back then, but I am now.
All right, that's a great answer, man. So the last question about education on Shakespeare that's all I wanted to ask is that, you know, we're from Pakistan/India, and, you know, I think we've had some great adaptations. So is there any, I think you mentioned Haye because one of your classmates talked about it. Is there any that you have watched and that you really liked?
But you know, I'm really bad. I've only seen Haye.
Haye is, I think, personally, it is the best. It is the best. So I think that's a good pick if you're only going to watch one.
Yeah, I know. I really want to watch like Omkara, and obviously Maqbool is. I think it's got Irfan Khan in it. The late great Irfan Khan. I really, really love 95% of Haye. I think Shahid Kapoor. So for anyone that doesn't know, Haye is a Hamlet adaptation, and it's set, I think, in 90s Pakistan/India. Kashmir, yes, sorry, it is Kashmir. Kashmir, disputed territory between Pakistan and India. There's been, you know, decades of sort of political campaigns and fights and war and dodgy tactics in that region. And my dad's side is actually from Kashmir.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I've never been, unfortunately. I've been to Pakistan, but not that area.
Okay.
And it's also really important to mention, yes, there's fights going on there. Yes, there's, you know, people getting killed, electricity being cut off, dodgy stuff from all angles. But it is one of the most beautiful natural places on this earth. Like, if anyone is listening to this, do yourself a favor and Google Kashmir right now.
Yeah.
Because the lakes, the mountains, the valleys is unreal, man.
Yeah,
and
I agree. Yeah.
We have to talk about that stuff, right? But yeah, Haye is an adaptation of Hamlet that's set in Kashmir in the 90s, and it's brilliant. Like, Shahid Kapoor, who plays Haye, so Haye is Hamlet, is phenomenal in that, man. And I think it just did things for me where stuff made sense, right? So in Bollywood, you have this tradition where they have songs throughout the film. And then in Hamlet, you have the dumb show, right? When all the actors...
Mousetrap, I think,
Yeah. When they do that. So then what these guys did is that they made the dumb show into one of the songs. And I'm still blown away. Like, that is just such a G move, man. Like, you've not shoehorned one thing, you've not sacrificed one thing, you've blended it. So good. And I say 95% I like, because at the end, everything goes a bit Expendables, and, you know, body parts start flying off, which, you know, you need for entertainment, but
That is the most gruesome, like, ending of Hamlet that I've ever seen. I think that there ever is. But I think people are going to listen to you and me when I say that watch it, because we've just finished. We just wrapped up on our online adaptation of Hamlet, and we're editing it right now. So I think it'll be a treat for the people who were in it to just check it out and see how they handled it, because we've filmed it in unforeseen circumstances as well.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
You've seen a few of the adaptations, right? What's your favorite one?
Ooh, my favorite. I'm gonna have to say Haye is the best, but there's something about Omkara that I really like. The one that's really hard to find, because, like you said, that how Haye takes Bollywood and does what stereotypically Bollywood does and makes it make sense. Omkara, on the other hand, does Bollywood things over the top, but it's like it still makes sense, but it's way more over the top than Haye, and it's just like there's like an item number song in it, like how Indians love item number songs.
Yeah.
And it still makes sense in the narrative, and yeah, Omkara was good because it's the first Bollywood film with swear words in it, with Indian swear words.
Oh,
now,
really?
Literally every Indian show and film now has swear words, but that was the one that started it in 2006-07.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. And Omkara is an adaptation of
Othello. And it introduced me to Othello, because I'd never studied it, I'd heard of it obviously, but I'd never read it. But I watched Omkara first, got the gist of it, then I went to reading Othello.
Yeah,
so
see,
that helped me to understand it. Yeah,
that visual learning is so important, man. I feel.
Yeah, I agree, man. I want to ask you now about because you're working in the industry as an actor, right?
Yeah.
Did you always know what you wanted to do, or if not, what did you want to do before, and what changed your mind?
Oof. Did I always...
Sorry, the big questions, man.
No, that's a big question. You know what? I think in my heart of hearts, I kind of knew I wanted to perform.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a really shy kid when I was young, so I never really said those words out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, I
feel that.
I got into acting off of Dare. In year 7. So how in year 7 you do your form does plays and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we did that, short plays, and my form was doing a play called Bill's New Frock, and it's about this guy Bill who wakes up as a girl. He wakes up as Belinda, just because, and then he has to just live his day like that. Very progressive for 2010. But yeah, and then so the drama teacher was like, "Are the boys in the class who wouldn't mind playing a girl?" And then one of my mates at the time turned to me. He was like, "I bet you 50p you won't put your hand up."
50p.
Listen,
I mean, inflation, sure, but yeah.
50p could buy you a KA and a Freddo.
Yeah.
There's no joking about 50p, man. So I was like, yeah, of course, bro. He's not going to pick me. He's going to pick all these other men that always put their hand up. And then I got picked.
Yeah. Were you the only one with your hand up?
No, there was 3 of us who picked me. But that's how I got into it.
Uh-huh.
But then you know what? I think did I always know what I wanted to do? Well, my parents they obviously cottoned on that I liked doing drama, because I just did it at school, and they were supportive, and yeah, they loved it. When I went into uni, I was like, cool, I'm gonna do this degree, and I'm probably gonna work in advertising afterwards, because it's a bit creative, but it's not that boring. And then there was a specific moment where it changed for me, where I knew that acting was it. It was a recall for a drama society play, A View from the Bridge, and we were doing the round robin, so 2 of us would jump in, do a scene, and I was watching 2 of the third years do a scene, and just the energy that they were bringing, just instantly, man, I don't know, sounds corny, but I just knew that I would be chasing this feeling for the rest of my life. It was just so sick. Yeah, and then not looked back since.
That's quite the answer, man. All right, so then I'm just going to ask, what have you been up to since you've left Royal Holloway? What are you okay with sharing? Because I know a lot, but, I'd like the people who are listening to know as well.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I think, yeah, I've been I've been really blessed to be busy and be in the right rooms at the right time. So since I left uni, first of all, I worked as a marketing assistant in a theatre. That's what really kicked it off for me. Not because I was a marketing assistant, but I was able to understand how theatre works. But yeah, so after that, I was part of the Almeida's Young Company, 9-month free program where we just make a show and you get to act every week. So I was part of that, and then I've done plays at the Edinburgh Fringe and the New Diorama Theatre, and I did a bit of TV, did an episode of Doctors on BBC. Probably everyone's aunties or mums watch that. No one I know watches it. Recently I did a little scene in a film that's coming out next year, and obviously the biggest thing I think for me outside of acting has been I started writing poetry.
Definitely.
Which runs in line with our man Willie Shakes.
And you've got me into it as well, bro. I'm trying to do some writing as well, like after your session that you ran.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, so poetry's been a big thing for me. It's just kept me busy, and in between the acting gigs, just keeping creative like that has been great, and that's opened doors. I've worked with the Roundhouse, and coming up. So literally next week, I'll be filming some more TV. I'll be filming in Belfast. A new series called Hope Street. It's about this British Muslim female police officer who gets transferred to Belfast, and then I play her disgruntled ex who tracks her down.
I mean, that sounds so cool. I can't wait to watch that, man.
Thanks, man. But yeah, I've been blessed,
Yeah, and the one thing, I think the one big thing that we have in common, like other than our interest and our background, is, I didn't put this in the notes, so it might be a surprise to you, but our love for Riz Ahmed with the talk that I did, and I was talking to him a lot, and it just came to my mind. I just wanted to ask you, because you've said a lot of stuff to me, but I want to get it all recorded down. Like, what does he mean to you? Like, what has he done that's shaped the way that your life is going right now?
You want to get it recorded so you can expose me, yeah? That's it.
I'm exposing myself as well in a minute. Don't worry.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Riz, man. Riz is the guy for me. I think a lot of people I've met, a lot of actors have their person, A friend of mine, for his person is Philip Seymour Hoffman. He loves him. And for me at the moment, it's Riz. To put it plainly, Riz Ahmed had written an essay, I think in 2016, as part of this book called The Good Immigrant. A phenomenal book about British experience, ethnic minorities / global majority people in Britain. It's a collection of their stories. And Riz's essay is all about, it's called Airports and Auditions, right? And I won't give too much away because everyone should read it. Buy the book or find the article online. It's just, I read that after first year, and I'd just done a show at the Edinburgh Fringe with uni people. I just wasn't sure about this acting thing, it was fun, and I just thought it was something fun I might have done at uni. And I wanted to do it for real, but you just don't know, right? I read that essay, and I just suddenly didn't feel like a conspiracy theorist anymore. Like, this guy was talking about stuff that I felt as a British Pakistani creative person, and he put it in very simple but very eloquent words, and it was just like, I just felt super seen. And it's ironic because he talked about in that essay and in his wider stuff, like the power of representation, and I felt so represented reading that article, and he just made it make sense. I think that's the biggest thing, making it make sense. And then backtracking a little bit about the adaptations as well, Eastern Shakespeare adaptations, is realizing what Riz does for me, right, is making me realize that we have people like us, people who look like us, and anyone has their whole selves to offer, and that is enough. You don't have to morph and mold. Your whole self is enough. And in the same way with these Shakespearean adaptations, right, like our cultures, Pakistani culture, Indian culture, South Asian culture, is so rich. We have Mughal empires. We have the best poets the world has ever seen. I'm not talking about myself, defo not.
You are great though, honestly, bro. You are great.
Appreciate that, man. But yeah, not compared to some of these guys. These the empires, the poets, the way Islam intersects, the colors, and our love for dance and food. There's so much to offer there that it can only ever elevate Shakespeare's words. And I think the same way Riz made me realize that like my own experiences can only ever elevate and complement what the text is giving me. It's a two-way thing. So I that's a long answer, but he just made me feel really seen, man. Riz Ahmed, and he's just a sick guy. And my answer would be similar. I've talked about this a lot. People are probably so fed up of me hearing me talk about him, but I'm always finding something new. Like I'm going through his albums all the time. He's like every month I make a new playlist for the month, and every month you it's not that you have one track, you have the whole album at least on the playlist, and I'm finding new things, like listening, and I get something new from it every time. And like he's made me open up and explore. Like as a kid, I'd have the things that I'd like, stuff like Doctor Who and all that thing, and then my parents would have the stuff that they'd like, and we'd never really mix. This was a calm thing. It wasn't something violent or a big deal. It was just like they had their thing, I had my thing, and we'd never really explore each other's things. But as I got older, my parents would be willing to explore my stuff, but I just never want to explore their thing, because that's their thing, isn't it? Like Qawwali, Aziz Mia, Allama Iqbal, that sort of thing. But now that I'm getting older, and ever since I discovered Riz Ahmed, he's pushed me to like, and I'm saying this as if I've met him, but like he's pushed me to like, no, go back to your roots, see what you are, and it's made me realize, how much Shakespeare can enrich that, and vice versa. So and that's it, innit? I mean, this podcast episode could just be two dudes who love Riz Ahmed, but it's like it's what it means, and I think people need to understand this. When we stand certain people, I've got friends who stand Beyonce like there's no tomorrow, and people who stand Stormzy or Kano, and it's just understanding and recognizing the power that representation has. Especially you go Royal Holloway, and it's great, and hope it is changing, I think, but you need to recognize the power that this representation has, and it starts small, man. If you're a uni student and you're doing shows, I'm not saying you have to make everyone you have to make a black Hamlet and you're some white middle class young person, you know what I mean? But you have to be inclusive from the start, because it matters too.
I have to say, like, I'm not bringing it up just because I'm part of it. Like I say this, that I'm the first year rep, and I only joined because of how inclusive everyone was. So big up to all the people in Shakespeare Soc, the president, education secretary, the social secretary, everyone. They made me feel so welcome. And I just want to put this in. The reason I talk about Riz so much is because he's the reason I joined. I wanted to join the Shakespeare Soc. He's the reason I sought out a Shakespeare Soc, because while he did study at Oxford, after that he did a master's at Royal School of Speech and Drama, and he did classical acting. So that's Shakespeare and that sort of thing. So obviously, I think we're both trying to follow in his footsteps. So I think that's why I'm trying to get into Shakespeare and acting and that sort of thing. Yeah,
following the footsteps. This is something we've talked about as well. Like, you have following the footsteps. And then when I was at uni, Lord knows, bro, I just, anything that Riz did, I was like, cool, okay, I can go this avenue then, because Riz has done it. And this can apply to anyone who's inspired by someone. But there comes a point where following in the footsteps just won't serve you anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you got to carve your own path. What does Subhan want to do? What serves Subhan that Riz might not like, or Riz might not do? So it's taking that inspo and then running with it. We're really good at kids with, as kids, we take ideas and we run with them to the moon.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be too different when we get older.
Yeah, some really good advice, bro. Thanks for that. Yeah, I don't have anything else to ask, and I guess that's the end of the podcast then. Azan, thank you so much for coming, and I wish you good luck for all the things you're going to film, and I hope you get more opportunities to do a lot of acting and everything, and your poetry as well.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man. And for all your kind words. And listen, man, you are just at the beginning of your journey. I can't wait to see what happens, my guy.
This has been your host, Subhan Haye, and in the words of Shakespeare, villain, I have done thy mother.